So our next presenter is Jeremy Yates from UCL, who unfortunately was not able to make it in person, but we have him on the phone right now, the virtual phone. So he's going to present live from his house. Jeremy, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Fantastic.
So,
it works.
Yes, sorry I can't be with you. I'm afraid I'm being monitored for health reasons. So, nothing too serious, but, yeah. Okay, if any of you are here on Thursday and Friday, I will see you all then. But
we're only here until Wednesday.
Oh, but there's another meeting on the.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. Others may. So we'll do that. Okay. So I was asked to speak, and when I was asked to speak, okay. Well, I'm going to share what I have. When I was asked to speak, I was originally asked to talk about what we're doing in AirFed and in the Air Federation. But I then noticed that Sadaf Alam was speaking about that, so I thought I will have to talk on something else. So I decided to take a much more philosophical view of what we're trying to do. And
Jeremy, sorry, are you going to share some slides?
I thought I was doing that.
No, we're close.
Okay, let me do that.
Is it because we're pinned, or?
Can you see them now?
We got it now. Go ahead, Jeremy. It's all yours. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. And you can hear me. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so I decided I'd take a much more philosophical view, seeing as Paul and Sadaf will kind of tell you all about the project in great detail and have a think about some of these concepts that have been thrown around over the last few years, particularly with the phrase democratisation. And the democratisation of HPC-AI, or as we're now entering into supercomputing AI. What do those actually mean? What does it actually entail? And what does it mean on the ground for the people that, say, the previous speaker was talking about? And I'm going to talk about digital research technical professionals. That's a very long name, and the previous speaker spoke about those roles and those people as well. A lot of this democratization stuff that people idly throw around has a severe impact on the holders of those roles. So that's one of the points that I'm going to make quite strongly, is that when we talk about what democratization means, it's very, very important that one of the actors involved, which are the digital research technical professionals, have to be very involved in this. Have to be. Otherwise, there will be an element of just being dumped on. So that the collaboration that the previous speaker was talking about, it goes much deeper than just working together on a bit of code. It should start to go deeper, like how we organise our services and other things like that. And I hope everyone will begin to see just what these research technical professionals actually offer and add to the research journey, just from my talk. So I just want to make the point that without those roles, this is meaningless. I want to make that a very bold statement, but I just want to make that very clear. So democratisation. let's remind ourselves what democracy actually means. Okay, democracy, the people reign, the demos, perhaps, the people reign, or literally people power. That's what it means, and it's the community's need to be sovereign. And I think the first thing to realise about this word is that this is the people reign, not the individual reign, the people reign. So it's us together, and that's going to be very important thread for us to hold on to as we go through this little journey. Democratisation, this word that's bandied about, is enabling the people to be powerful and to use power. To be powerful and to use power. Giving people real agency, so giving the demos agency. And it's balanced by the rule of laws, which originate from the demos itself and or from higher authorities accepted by the demos. So, you know, in our case, it will be the government or the NHS or funding agencies and things like that. In our case, the communities are very often the domain or the projects that we're involved in. Okay, and that's what we are involved in. Okay, so to just to anchor this into some key concepts. Rule of law is important because there must be order if we're to function as the social beings that we are, and our projects are social ones. I've spent 6 months mediating a dispute between 3 European universities, and I can assure you science is a very social activity in every aspect. Literally solved it today. But, you know, there has to be order, there has to be boundaries. That's a very important thing for us. These concepts, although they might seem rather highfalutin, and what are they doing in a talk like this, are very crucial to what we do, because we start to identify from the bottom up what makes the constituent part of the activity that we're actually engaged in, and how we're going to deliver it, and what the boundaries are, and what the rules are. It's very important that we kind of step back sometimes and start to take these into account. So these are a lofty set of concepts. They're not really. It's how part of a bit of the world organises itself and does its daily life. So they're not lofty concepts at all. They're how much of the world does its daily life. So that's an important thing for us to remember as well. So we have some concepts. How do we get them to tools? You've been talking about that today. And Sadaf and Paul would have talked about federated access and computing. They'll have touched on data access, secure data and cyber security. Got some rules coming in there, laws. Federated access and computing, that's enabling people. That's democratisation. That's actually allowing people to actually do stuff, have agency. And then one of the enablers that I hope will be talked to this meeting, because I was really going to, when I was planned to be here, that's one of the things I wanted to talk to people in between meetings, is the whole idea of how performant virtualization actually is a massive enabler of this, as it allows people to make use of systems in a performant way without having to know all the arcane knowledge that, say, I would have had to learn 30 years ago when I logged onto the first cray I ever used 30 years ago. You know, I don't want that experience for people, and I don't want to be part of a small clique anymore. The whole point of democratisation is to give the demos, our fellow academics, which in the UK there are 200,000 doing research, to give them what they need. And that's really the goal. That is the goal, and the challenge here is to broaden out that base. And there's been a lot of good work doing that over the last decade, but we've been lacking certain technologies that allow people to take their work from their laptop onto servers. And as someone who's had to work very closely with King's College London Central Research Computing Services, is there anyone from King's in the audience? Any hands go up, Brian? Okay. Well, we've actually done a kind of laptop to server transformator project for very secure health data, quite complex health data, and just going from a laptop onto a server onto a small cluster makes an enormous difference in that particular field. But it took 14 months to actually get all the paperwork and all the data sharing agreements sorted out. But that's, if I'm talking about the kind of new user I'm talking about is someone like my current PhD student Dylan and my new PhD student Olivia, who aren't from the background that I'm from, which is theoretical physics, but are actually into doing quite complex health data analysis. And that's the new communities that are going to start benefiting from these new resources, because it greatly enables what they can do. And I can vouch for that because I've been doing it. Well, I haven't. Dylan's been doing it, but we have been doing it ourselves, and so it does make a big difference. Now, the jobs themselves aren't big, but there are about 30,000 of these people. So bear that in mind. So performance virtualization. Some of you in the audience will probably be wincing at the way I've been driving some of you on that over the last 5 or 6 years. So this talk originally was going to discuss how the Excalibur Air Federation project and other projects will deliver those tools, but I suspect you've already heard that. I hope you have anyway. If you haven't, then I can fill in a minute. And the title of vague populism, a throwaway comment, or real subsidiarity, which is basically giving access and authority, or actually giving power down to those. I hope you took from Sadaf's talk this morning. There's a real desire for people to set up their own things on these systems, on these new big systems. A real desire to enable that. That's what real subsidiarity is. Okay, and I think the attitude amongst Sadaf and Paul and others in the Air Federation and in the Air projects and in other projects is to be commended. That it's really about giving everyone a place, that place where they can be and do their research, giving people agency. So it's not washing of hands, it's enabling, and I hope the previous speaker can also see that who's going to be the holding hand to enable people to get set up when they've got this freedom. Of course, it's going to be a digital research technical professional. There's a real role there. So all through what I'm about to say, there's roles everywhere, and so on. So I just want to go over the key concepts again, because I just thought it'd be nice just to step back. And I talked about communities, that's being sovereign, having agency. The thing that we all cluster around is, of course, the project. The project, we call it by very names. Some use virtual organisations. Some use lots of other names as well. And for most of the people in this room, resources are allocated by peer review. All other means for such awards, or allocated by other means, or purchased. So I think Sadaf was sharing with some of us some interesting data around on the new air system at Bristol, which is who are being onboarded. How many of them are from traditional academic, and how many are not? And it's a quite high percentage, but I'll let Sadaf tell you what the percentage is. But it's changing the game in a way that we haven't seen already. So the peer review, the thing we're all used to, things have got to change a bit, because things are changing, and new communities are coming in with very different expectations. The people I know in my health data research have very different expectations from the people I talked to in KU Leuven this morning, who are traditional astrophysicists who run very large CFD jobs and photon transport jobs, for instance. They're all Slurm, Batch, for all that kind of thing. Dylan and Laura and Olivia would know what that was, right? But they're very good at Elasticsearch and other things, which is another thing to think about, and Python. So the project platform, this window, single pane of glass that Paul talks about, the thing that you and I interact with, right? Could be a web browser, could be an app, could be anything, which contains the services. And I think Sadaf hopefully went through some of the things that we want to see in AirFed. But just to give you an idea of what's shared and what isn't, authentication can be federated. I hope that came clear through to you all this morning. And I hope many of you are pleased by the direction of travel and the fact that we want to be federated in this regard. Authorization, which is tied in intimately to the project, that's probably going to be a bit domainy, right? Because we tend to, even when we're doing interdisciplinary research, we tend to join in two or three domains together. They all, when you actually put the project together, and believe you me, I've done this, you all have different assets. It's a bit like a cauldron, you're all mixing together. There's all bits of it there. And authorization in those projects is a bit of a head scratcher, I will tell you now. The other thing that comes in quite a lot is data governance and the effect that has on secure access, data security and cyber security. So those laws are coming out, laws and rules are now coming out. And accounting, the higher authority wants to know how it's all going, as well as the PI, as well as the digital research technical professionals, as well as the researchers, as well as the others, mix of domain and general, right? I think one of the things about the democratization is that more and more actors are appearing. More and more actors are appearing. And we've seen that over the last decade. The RSC were the first new set of actors to emerge, after sysadmins and users. Users, of course, are researchers, people who actually do R&D and R&I and other things. That list is increasing. So the list of actors is increasing. But we need to cater for different actors. The project PI lead, DRTPs in various roles, researchers, other forms of user, other forms of use. Right? Things are changing. An experiment can be a user. We already have that with PP and in particle physics and things like that, right? The experiment you can view as a user. We have that in UK Spectrometry Regional Centre, which Louise leads. The observatory is a user. It's sending all this data in, and it's sending out all these data, and it wants stuff done with it. Different ways of thinking are needed. Okay, And I think that this is quite an important thing for many of us to start getting our heads around, because as the academic landscape evolves, more and more large experiments, more and more things are going to be moving into the higher education sector, right? And we're going to have to figure out how we deal with that. It's one of the nice things about performance virtualization; it helps you do that. But a hierarchy is developing, as it always does. You know, in my other role, I'm a member of a hierarchy, as you probably guessed, with different rights and responsibilities. That's going to be, and that starts to weaken the demos of it. Always does. Hierarchy does, unless it has a clear servant culture. Okay. Governance. The thing that keeps order, things that make sure things get done, things that make sure the boundaries are respected. It's at all levels and along several axes. Right? Let's not complicate things, but let's just recognise that all of us, all our different actors have different sets of roles, rights and responsibilities. And we need to kind of, again, as we start thinking about things as we go forward, we need to recognise that. That's a key part of the democratisation process, is the respect that comes out for everyone who's doing, or for all the actors who are doing jobs in this sector. Okay, that's something that's pretty crucial if we're to thrive and survive and thrive. Our project platforms, these things we want to merrily build, need to reflect our governance needs. You've got to think about it before we do it, I think is what I'm trying to get across here. And of course, there's always the age-old question that we always stumble over. And we always have to have a couple of go-outs. What's the right level of granularity in the way we organise things? Again, the previous speaker that was all about that, right? What's the right level of granularity? Where should resource be? Right? It's really important. And it was a really, really interesting talk on a really excellent talk, and thoughts on that. What's the right level of granularity? It doesn't apply to RSCs, it's applied to a lot of other things as well. Okay. Right. So, don't worry, this is the last slide. Now, we can all write down our favourite set of services. Okay. And this is not a joke. Because actually, that should be the heart of what our individual projects should be doing. All of us who run projects should actually be aware of at least services that we need. So all of us PIs and those assigned to help us should at least have some idea of what services we actually need. And I think this is the kind of, if I'm doing a bit of gap analysis and looking at myself looking in the mirror here, do I actually know? Does the PI or the project manager that they pick to run the project for them, because that's another role, by the way, very often the PI is too busy to do this, so they delegate authority down to a fellow academic or a digital research technical professional, and get them to be the project manager. Do we know what our favourites say? Do we know what's optimised? Good question. And maybe one that we ought to ask a bit more. And this leads on to the next thing. And again, Sadat has made this point. Louise has made this point. And I've made it a lot as well. But if any Stack HPC people in the audience have made this, I think everyone in this room has made this point, probably to someone over the last year, is that the actors' stories need to be gathered together. The narratives about what people do and what they need to be gathered together in order to design a service. We should, by now, be very good at gathering things together to design a project. One would hope 10 years of RSC investment and all the rest of it has actually helped that along. I'll let you all reflect on whether that's a true statement, but but the actors' stories, all the actors I mentioned earlier, it's not just the researcher, it's the others as well. It's the digital research technical professional. It is the PI and the project manager, right? It is Sadaf and Paul and others who lead. It is the funder, and the funders are in the room. It is the vendors. It's all of us. We've all got stories. When we're doing the various projects, be it procurement or deployment, running a system, doing science, doing research, doing innovation, we've all got stories. We're not very good at gathering those together, okay? So that we can then put together and thoughtfully design a service. And the reason for that is very easy. It's complicated and takes a lot of work, and we just don't have the resources to do it. That doesn't mean we shouldn't start. Okay, so I'm now approaching retirement. So I've got my retirement projects all ready. There they are, and so I'll be taking early retirement in April. And the reason is because I actually saved up for it, so that's why. And if you look at these things, these are the ones that I kind of want to do over the next 2 or 3 years, and you can start to see that they're all quite different. So there's a couple of quite hardcore science stuff going on in there, right? So I'm a theoretical physicist and I do simulation. Well, I don't. My collaborators do. But there's an increasing need. We want to use machine learning to accelerate things, right? So there's a lot of RSC and data curation work needed there, right, just to get that done. And then I had a meeting this morning to kick off the ALM Atomium Project Data Machine Learning and Simulation Infrastructure meeting with colleagues from Brussels, Leuven, Paris, and me from UCL. And so then there's the application of machine learning to CFD and photon transport, ripping out elements of what we do already and putting machine learning in there. I've already talked about the learning health systems at GSTT, the guys in St Thomas Trust. How's that all going to be done? Well, in order to get anywhere near that, you need a project like Air Federation, where we're federating certain key services. You need to be able to shift data around, even if it's only once. And that's what the 10 gigabytes a second data transport project is. There's Base 2, which is actually a project funded by Excalibur to look at the profiling of major machine learning applications, just to see where they get slow. The spoiler alert is that it's in the data loader. That's the first thing we have to fix. But we're looking at it, right? You can't do huge problems unless you start fixing things like that. Zero data curation. So if Mark and Alistair are there, you can ask them about that because they just got funded. If you want to do the things that I've talked about already, you need to curate your data properly and understand it and understand its quality. And then there's the profiling system and application performance stuff, which some of you have been aware of and I've been going on about for years. Surprising number of the people in that room are now doing it and helping with it, which is quite nice. And my postdoc Marcus Kyle at UCL is doing a lot there. But there are others like Thomas Costello at UCL and Electra Christidi from UCL who've driven this, along with Tom from Bristol, have really driven this along over the last 3 to 4 years as well. And then there's an exciting new thing at UCL, computer science art collaborations in the area of research and innovation into research computing. So I've actually given you my retirement list of my hobbies, as someone from church called them on Sunday. But all of these require all the people that the previous speaker talked about, and they actually do really require the kind of democratisation that I've gone through. They really do require it to be much easier for the individual and the group and the project to actually see and understand what's going on, and also to actually make use in a good way, in an easy way, of the resources that are set in front of them. Right, thank you. I'll stop sharing.